It's me, Lexxie. I'm in the US. And we are going to try something a little bit different today. I don't meal prep a lot of things, but one thing I do meal prep is lasagna. Mostly because I find it truly a pain in the butt to put together. So once a year, I just make all the lasagna I need for an entire year. Which, I don't eat a lot of lasagna, so I find the right number to be 4. So today we're going to make 4 lasagnas. We are going to start with this lovely pot that my aunts gave me for Christmas. I love it. Thank you, aunts. It is a very large cast iron Dutch oven, so it should be able to fit enough meat sauce for 4 lasagnas. Let me just make sure I've got this in shot for the overhead camera. We're going to add 1 pound of Italian sausage, and I know I usually have all of the metric amounts figured out ahead of time. I don't. I'll put them down below, or I'll put them wherever I decide to put the text pop-ups for the ingredients. I know I don't do a lot of savory things on this channel, and that's because I don't really measure stuff. So I'm going to give you my recipe as best I can, but it's going to be a little imperfect here. So we've got a pound of sausage and a pound of ground beef. I've tried it with just sausage, I've tried it with just ground beef, and in my opinion, it needs both. With just the ground beef, it doesn't have enough flavor, and with just the sausage, it's too sausagey. So I've got that on the stove, and I still don't have a light over here, which is why you're over there, because this shot would just be awful. But we're going to get that heated and cooked through. Yes, the heat's on. Well, we cut up some vegetables. I, like many Americans, and many people in general, I'm sure, don't eat near enough vegetables. So I use lasagna, I use a lot of dishes, let's be honest, as a way to hide vegetables in my food. So we are going to start with, these are pretty small onions for what I usually get, so I'm going to go with 3 onions. Now what do you guys think of this camera shot where you've got me here and you can see me over at the stove too? I wasn't quite sure how that was going to work out. If you tell me you don't like it, I'll put you back up here where I usually have you. So that's basically 2 onions. I think I'm going to go 3. But I'm going to get these diced up, and I dice them up pretty fine because I'm going to be adding quite a few vegetables to this. So I want things to mix up pretty good. I'm going to get these chopped up, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I've got my onion here. I'm going to go put that in the pot with the meat and break the meat up a bit. Can you still hear me okay when I'm over here? Honestly, I'm not even sure if I'm in shot. I should probably check that. But that is cooking away nicely. And I just happen to have a few shallots left over. I don't use shallots a lot. I really should, they're good. But I've got a few shallots left over, and there's no reason to not add those in too. These are kind of small shallots, but I'm just going to add all of them. Well, I'm going to get them chopped up, and I'll be right back again. Okay, got the shallots cut up, and these things made me tear up like onions rarely do. So that was fun. I wonder why shallots are so much harder on the eyes than onions are, at least for me. Now red onions are so bad when I'm chopping them up. I like to make pickled onions, and I make like 10 or 12 pints worth at a time. And I've got this huge bowl, that red bowl that I sometimes use, full of onions when I do it. And I have to wear snowmobile goggles. Otherwise, I just can't see. It's horrible. How many of you are like that? And I know there's all the different tricks, like light a candle, do the cold water, leave the root end on. Really what works best for me is the snowmobile goggles. I look dumb, but they work. So get this cooking away a little bit. It's going to take a little bit of time. There's a lot of meat going on in here. Okay, what needs to go in next? I grabbed 2 cans of mushrooms, and honestly, I'm kind of thinking this isn't enough. I love mushrooms, so I'm going to get 1 more can. Grab some of these too. I'll tell you about these in a minute. But I'm going to open 3 cans of mushrooms. Hopefully that's not too loud. In most videos where I'm doing recipes for you guys, I'm a little more set up. I've got everything measured, all the cans open. Which way do you like better? When I'm more prepared, or when you're watching me go through the process? Okay. Take these over to the sink, and I'm going to drain them and give them a rinse. I like to give my mushrooms just a quick rinse. I think it helps make them not taste like can. Dump them right in there. Give this all another stir. Now I do go ahead and put the onions and mushrooms in before the meat's cooked, because they're going to take a while to caramelize and brown up nicely. So I just let them do it all together. If you wanted to prepare some other vegetables to go in there, like green peppers or artichoke hearts or olives, I've done all of that before. You could do that now. The only other vegetable I'm going to put in there is, this is some frozen shredded zucchini, and I'm just going to put it in frozen, but I'm going to wait and put this in after the tomato sauce goes in. So that needs to cook for a minute before I'm ready for the next step. So I will see you when we're ready for the next step. The meat and onions are still cooking down over there, but I thought we should use our time efficiently and do the next step. So I've got a bowl, and I forgot a spoon. Let's do a fork. And I'm going to take 2 eggs. And a 24-ounce container of ricotta cheese. This is not quite as smooth as I'm used to getting. I bought a different brand. But buy whichever ricotta you like. Even though this isn't as smooth as I'm used to, I'm sure it'll work out just fine. And to that, I'm going to add, and I'm hoping this isn't frozen still, a jar of pesto. And this is pesto that I made, but you could use any store-bought pesto that you like. And this is an 8-ounce jar. Like I said, I'm making 4 lasagnas. I'm making 4 small lasagnas. I'm going to use like 9x9 pans. So if you want to use like the big 9x14, I would do about half of this recipe if you only want to make one. But, you know, there's some chunks there, but I think it'll stir up okay. And we need some salt. Nice, good, heavy pinch of salt. You know what? I want some pepper too. See, this is why I don't do a lot of savory recipes. I don't use recipes. I just put things together. And it usually works out pretty well. Sometimes it doesn't. But more often than not, I'm good. I want garlic too. Garlic. And then we're just going to give this a really good stir. I should have picked a bigger bowl, but this will work. And this is going to kind of be a middle layer in the lasagna. Looks pretty good, doesn't it? I'm not going to taste it because of the raw egg, but I think that looks nice. So I'm just going to set that in the fridge until we're ready for it. There is one more component we need to make still, but I am going to check on the meat. So I will see you when we're ready to add some more stuff to that meat. Okay, I moved you a little closer, but I can't bring you too... I'm out of shot now, aren't I? But I can't bring you too much further in or we'll lose the light. I did add some salt to this meat because I had forgotten to before, and that needed to be done. But now I'm going to add some tomato product. I've got 2 cans of diced tomatoes that I'm going to drain and give a quick rinse to, as well as a partial can that was from dinner the other day. These have already been drained and rinsed, so I'm going to go ahead and throw those in, and then drain and rinse these other 2. Give this a stir. All right, I've only used this pot once or twice, so I'm not used to it getting hot. But I didn't think that my regular skillet was going to be big enough to hold this much meat sauce. Okay. Then, as I quite possibly step out of frame again, I've got 3 little cans of tomato sauce. I don't know, I always buy my tomato sauce in little cans just because it's easier to open 3 cans than 2 and have half a can sitting there that needs another purpose in life. So I'm going to dump these 3 in. Who knows, I may end up going back for a 4th one anyway. And there's no wine in there. Gonna add some red wine. I would just use whatever wine you like to drink. And I know this isn't the greatest place to open it, but I've kind of got you in the way of the other counter. So until I learn how to use these camera angles better, I'm working with what I've got. And to make sure we've got all this tomatoey goodness out of these cans, I'm going to fill each of these, maybe a third full. So I've used about that much wine. Give them a swirl and pour these in. Give this another good stir. Let me see if I can get, I don't know how well this is going to work, because I still don't have a light over here. But I'll see if I can insert a shot of what this looks like. But it's just going to bubble away. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry this is dark. If it's too dark, I won't even put it in. But yeah, this does not work. And it's not a light bulb. If it was a light bulb, I'd have it fixed. So we work with what we have, right? Did I say I added some salt to that off camera? Well, I added some salt to that off camera because I had forgotten previously. Where did I left the garlic over here. I'm going to add a good deal of garlic to that. That's a lot of garlic. Why not, right? That's probably about 3 tablespoons worth of garlic powder. Stir that in. Of course, you can use fresh garlic if you have that laying around. I just don't right now. Next year at this time, I probably will because I planted a whole bunch. Next, I showed you this zucchini. This is just about 4 cups of shredded frozen zucchini. When it was coming in fresh out of the gardens, I just froze a whole bunch of it. Well, I shredded it up in the food processor and froze a whole bunch of it so that I could be able to add it to food all year long. If you shred it up, it kind of just disappears into whatever you're cooking. So I like to add it to pasta sauces and I like to add it to soup. You can get real creative with this and hide vegetables. The noodles that I'm going to use are cook in the oven noodles. They're not pre-boils. And the thing that I have found with using cook in the oven noodles is you want your sauce to be a little waterier. That way it provides enough liquid for the noodles. And because of that, I'm not pre-thawing and draining these. If you wanted to use pre-boiled noodles, I would thaw this out and squeeze out all the excess water. Because believe me, when you freeze zucchini, you get a ton of extra water coming out of it. So we're just going to press those down into the liquid. They'll thaw in there, and that'll cook down. That's going to need a few minutes. I'm going to clean some of this up, and then we will start the last component. Alright, so this is looking pretty good, but we are going to give it a taste before we start on the next thing. Yeah, that needs a few things. Some pepper. Although I guess I really didn't put too many herbs and spices in it yet, huh? Just the garlic and some salt. This is a lot of sauce, so I'm going for a lot of pepper. Some more salt. This one's oregano. Again, it's a lot of sauce, so don't be afraid to adequately season. Some parsley. And some thyme. And I know this one is a little what's the word I want? A little off textbook. The anchovy paste. I almost always put this in my spaghetti sauce. About like that. It doesn't taste fishy. You just get like a salty umami vibe from it. And it's really nice. I'm also going to throw in about that much butter. And that just helps with the mouthfeel, makes it feel a little bit more velvety on the tongue, and it helps to balance out some of the acid. I gotta learn how to cook with my back not to the camera. Give that a stir. We're gonna let that sit for a minute so that everything can kind of disperse before we try and taste it, see how it's going. So I'm going to add, I've got this other pan going. The next thing we're going to make is a bechamel sauce, like a white creamy sauce. And I'm going to start with half a stick of butter, although I think I'm probably going to add a little more. I'm pretty sure I'm going to add a little more, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it. What we're doing here is making a roux. That's about another tablespoon and a half. A roux is a way to thicken liquid. So we're going to melt, I don't need that yet. We're going to melt this butter. And once it's melted, we're going to add some flour. And I know you can't see in the pot. I'm sorry. I will figure this out one day. Give the meat sauce another stir. You know what I forgot to add to this? Well, you know, I forgot to add 2 things to this. Gonna give this another taste. That's a lot better. I made spaghetti last week and I had extra sauce and I wanted to save it to throw into this. And I completely forgot, so I'm going to throw this in the microwave and get it defrosted after I turn this clip off. But the other thing I forgot was this jar that I told you about. These are mushrooms that I bought online and I grew myself in my backyard. And then I dried in the dehydrator, and these are delicious. They've got a deeper umami flavor than most mushrooms that you're going to get at the grocery store. These are called wine cap mushrooms. I can link the site that I got them down below, but I really like these. So I'm just going to crumble up some of these, and they will rehydrate and cook right in the sauce. Just a couple handfuls. Give this a stir. Oh, the butter's melted. Now that the butter's melted, I'm going to add some flour. And you're going to mix that up. And you kind of want a paste here. You want to let the flour cook for a minute so that you don't have that raw flours taste, but you want to make sure you don't let it burn. I need a little more there. Turn this one down a bit because it's boiling pretty hard. Okay. Now into that flour and butter, we're going to add some milk. Start with, I don't know, maybe half a cup. A lot more is going to go in there than half a cup, but that's just where we're starting. You want to start with a little bit at a time, that way you don't end up with a lot of lumps and your roux gets dispersed evenly. Once the roux thickens the half cup that you've put in there, add some more. You can use a whisk for this. I'm just using a spatula because I've got a non-stick pan and I don't want to scratch it. And I don't have a silicone whisk, only a metal one. It's about a quart of milk in there so far. If you want a richer lasagna or richer sauce, you can use half and half if you want. And for anybody in the UK, half and half, all that is half heavy cream and half milk. So there's just more fat. It's a richer, thicker dairy. Americans typically use half and half in their coffee, but whole milk works just fine. 2% milk works just fine, whatever you have in your fridge. Okay, we are just going to let that thicken a little bit. It needs to come up to a boil to fully thicken. But I'm going to add some salt and some pepper. I lost the garlic again. And some garlic to this. Can you really have too much garlic in Italian food? That's about a tablespoon. I hope I put enough roux in here. And there I go making a mess. Well, if I decide it doesn't thicken up enough, I can always make some more roux in another pan and then add it into the sauce. But I think we're going to be okay. I am going to put you on hold so that I can microwave that other bit of sauce without you having to hear that. And I'm going to get some stuff ready for assembly while these cook down. I'll see you. Okay, so not everything we film turns out perfect, right? The overhead shot is not going to match what I'm saying and doing here because I apparently didn't turn this camera on. But what I do to package these lasagnas is first I put strips of parchment paper in them. And what this does is helps me to get the lasagnas out when I'm done. I get them out because I don't have enough of these glass dishes to be able to sacrifice these to the freezer until I eat the lasagnas. So I pack them like this, and then I pop them out of the glass and put them into Ziploc bags so that these can go back in my cupboard. So I start with 2 strips of parchment paper, and I do tend to reuse those because they're not actually touching the food. And they're not touching the food because next I put down 2 pieces of cling wrap. We're going to put 1 piece going each direction with it overlapping, overflowing. You want enough that you can wrap it around the lasagna. Sorry, I'm hoping I can get the overhead shot from where I did this previously to match up, sort of, with what I'm doing. But you want something kind of like that. And I am going to make 1 more of these. You don't need to watch me fight with more plastic wrap. This one I'm not putting plastic wrap in because this one I'm going to cook for dinner tomorrow. But I'm going to do that 1 more time and I'll see you in a minute. I forgot a step. After you put the plastic wrap in, take a square of parchment paper and put that in the bottom of the pan. What this is going to do is it's just going to keep you from having to fight with the plastic wrap, to pick pieces of plastic wrap out of the crevices in your frozen lasagna. Let's try this again. Okay, so I know good and well that my overhead camera does not have a wide enough shot to be able to show you everything I'm doing here. but I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to put away this milk, so I've got one less thing in my way. But the first thing I'm going to do is take a ladle full of this meat sauce, maybe half a ladle full, and put it in the bottom of each pan. And that's just going to help keep the noodles from burning, keep everything hydrated, and help them to rehydrate, help them to cook properly. We're going to open up some lasagna noodles. Because of the size pans I'm using, yeah, I'm going to have to break these. If you have a larger household than I do, you will probably be able to use full-size noodles. But a 9 by 14 pan of lasagna is just too much for me. And they are not breaking cleanly, but that's okay. They will taste the same. I've got a few leftover lasagna noodles of another brand from when I made this last time. They don't have to match. It'll all still taste good, taste the same. Although I should remember for next time that those Barilla noodles break a whole lot easier than Gaia Russa that I bought. They don't break as nicely. Okay, so we've got a little bit of sauce and some noodles. Next, we're going to do a sauce layer in earnest. So, nice ladle and a half full of this meat sauce. Spread that out. And this is why I tend to do this just once a year and just make enough, because there's a lot of assembly for this. Sorry if I'm not looking at the camera to talk to it. I'm still learning how to use this camera angle. I'll get better if we keep doing it this way, I promise. We need some Parmesan cheese. I left that in the pantry. Okay, I know it's just the green sprinkle cheese, but this stuff holds a lot of nostalgia for me. I grew up with it. I love this stuff. So, yeah, I'm going to put some on the lasagna. Shake, 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 shake. If you want to use real Parmesan, like the stuff that you buy in a block and shred yourself, by all means. This just, like I said, has a real nostalgia factor for me. Next, mozzarella. I bought this 2-pound bag of mozzarella. And I don't think I'm going to use all of it, but we're going to use a good portion of it. So next we've got mozzarella going down. And it is lasagna, so you want to be pretty generous with the cheese. Who doesn't want a cheesy lasagna, right? And again, if you want to get better mozzarella that you shred yourself, by all means. I was just taking the easy way here. Okay. Next, Next, more noodles. So you get to watch me do this again. Fight with the noodles some more. Next time I will remember to buy the Barilla ones. I'm not sure if they didn't have the Barilla ones this time or if I just didn't see them. I may fast forward through some of this because it takes me a few minutes to get all these noodles broken up, doesn't it? There, that looks pretty good. Next is that ricotta and egg and pesto mixture. So we're gonna take about 1/4 of the bowl, put 1/4 of the bowl into each lasagna. That bowl in the sink, and then just spread this out as evenly as you can. If you don't have to break the noodles up, it's going to be a whole lot easier than it is for me. Just do the best you can there. I like to meal prep these because it doesn't really take more time to make enough meat sauce or enough filling for 4 than it does for 1. It does take a little more time to assemble them, but I'd still rather go through the headache of assembling all of these once than assembling them 4 separate times. Let's just do it once, get it over with, and have yummy lasagna for the entire year. Okay, that's done. Don't need that spoon anymore. Next is this bechamel, which has skimmed over a little bit, but don't worry about that, it'll still be just fine. We're going to divide this evenly amongst the 4 lasagnas. So I'm just gonna literally go 1 scoop in each until I'm out of sauce. Again, I might fast forward through this as it's probably kind of boring to watch. I've never done 4 of these at a time. The most I've ever done before is 2. Or maybe I did 3 last time. But this is the first time I've done 4. And I've done the math. I know that 4 is the right number to get me through a year. So this seems to be working out pretty nicely. So that's probably what I'll stick to in the future. That looks to be some roux that didn't really get mixed in nicely, so I'm just going to shove that aside. I know I'm making kind of a mess here, but we never said cooking was neat all the time, did we? Just going to spread that out a bit. What this is going to do for the lasagna is just make it super creamy feeling in the mouth, really luxurious, and I like luxurious. That looks pretty good, huh? Now I get to break up more noodles. You don't have to watch this. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I've got the last layer of noodles on. I did use about 1.5 boxes plus the noodles that I had left over, so probably about 2 full 1-pound boxes of lasagna noodles to make the 4. But some of that is going to depend on what size pans you have. So I'm going to take the rest of this meat sauce, start with 1 ladle per pan. Throw this in the sink because I don't need it anymore. Just distribute this evenly. Give it a spread. Some more of that Parmesan sprinkle cheese. Only sprinkled 3 of them. What am I thinking? And some more mozzarella. And I get it all over the floor, and the cat's gonna love that. There's only about a handful left in here, a little more than, so let's go ahead and use it, shall we? Can you really have too much cheese? Okay, now for storage. So we're going to set this one that I'm cooking tomorrow off to the side. For storage, these sections of plastic wrap that we're hanging over, that were extra, I'm going to fold these up and over. Just like that. Sealing the lasagna into place. And then this goes in your freezer. You want to leave it there about 2 days. It's going to turn into a big brick of food. Then you'll use these pieces of parchment paper to help lift the block out of the container. Put the whole thing into a Ziploc, label it. I know, you think you're going to remember what it is, but you're not, because you never do, so label it. And then put it in the freezer. And then when you go to cook it, what you need to do is find the pan that you molded it in. We'll call these pans a mold. Find the original pan that you molded it in. And while it is still frozen, and this is a big deal, you want to unwrap it while it's still frozen. Otherwise, it's just going to fall apart. You're going to have a bad day all around. So unwrap it while it's still frozen. That's also why we put the parchment paper on the inside. And then you'll have your frozen brick of unwrapped lasagna. Plop it in your pan. Put some foil on top of it and let it thaw in the fridge. It's going to take about 2 days to fully thaw before it's ready to cook. So you do need to plan ahead just a little. And when you go to cook it, preheat your oven to 400, 425. Got a lot of sauce on that, so that one can go down first. So you preheat your oven to like 400, 425, and cover the top tightly with foil. If you're worried about the noodles, and sometimes I am, you can add a couple of tablespoons of water to it before you cover it in foil. But you need to cover it really tight. That traps in the steam and allows the noodles to cook in the oven. So cover it in foil, put it in at 400 or 425, and it's going to take about 45 minutes. 45 minutes to an hour. After that point, uncover it, give it a poke or two, see if you can tell if the noodles are cooked. If the noodles aren't cooked, maybe add another tablespoon of water, recover it, let it go. But if the noodles are cooked, go ahead and take the foil off, and you can put the broiler on. I believe that in the UK you call that the grill. But you put the broiler on and you use that to brown the cheese up. Let it sit for a few minutes after it comes out of the oven, otherwise it'll just fall apart when you try to cut it. But you will have beautiful lasagnas, at least in my case, for a year. Did you have fun today? Did you enjoy this with the camera angles and the doing this the different way? Let me know down below if you liked this, or if you want me to go back to doing things like I usually do, or if you want to see more of this. But either way, if you could give the video a thumbs up, comment down below, let me know what you thought, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I would really, really appreciate it. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye. Hey, so I'm not sure at what point during the assembly my overhead camera turned off. If I have any footage, it will have been put in. If I don't, I'm sorry. And if you have any questions, yeah, ask them down below and I will do my best to answer. Like I said before, things can't always go perfect. See you next time.